Hello and welcome to our first introductory video on Flash CS6 using ActionScript 3.0. If you go ahead and open up Flash, you should get a screen that's very similar to mine. And you see we have a bunch of options for creating new. I'm going to go ahead and create a new ActionScript 3.0 file. You can just click on this here, or you can go under File, New, and then you see ActionScript 3.0. There's some other things down here that say ActionScript 3.0, but that's not what we're going to be working with right now. We need a regular ActionScript 3.0 document, the one that has FL in front of it. So here it just gives us some properties we can mess with. We're not going to touch these, and I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. So once I have that done, your screen will look very similar to mine. If not, it might look like this. And I'll change that and let that go. Basically, Flash provides you with a bunch of different options for changing the way your workspace is laid out. So these are all the same panels. They all pretty much do the same thing, just that they are used for different types of activities usually. So yours is probably set to Essentials, and if it's not, or sorry, if it is, go ahead and change it to Classic. I work with Classic. That's the way I prefer. So you can keep along with me. Make sure you are in Classic mode, and this is just this drop-down menu here. Click on that, and then select Classic. Once you have that, you should have a view that looks exactly like mine. And I'm just going to go over really quick what everything is and the names of everything you see here, just so you understand later when I refer to them. Right here we have what's called the stage, so this area here. The part that's going to show up in our game or our program when we actually press play. Oops, I'm sorry about that. When we actually press play on our game, and I'll show you real quick, all we're going to see is this white rectangle in the middle, or whatever we have drawn there. So right now, although we have this gray background, all we're seeing is the white when we actually play our game. And I can prove that by just drawing something real quick. So you have some on the white, some on the gray. And I'm going to play my video. You can see part of it gets cut off, and that's the part that's on the gray area. By default, you should have your selection tool active, so you should have a black arrow. And I want you to click and drag and press delete to get rid of that. And I'm just going to keep going over what everything is. So in the middle we have our stage. This is called the stage because it's where everything's going to happen for the most part. This is where all of our quote-unquote actors are going to be, or our objects, or our drawings. The next part that we're going over is the timeline. You can see it's the timeline because it says it right here. If you can't find your timeline or you ever lose it underneath Windows, you can just click. You see I have timeline checked. If I click it now, it's going to hide it. But if it's not checked and I click on it, yeah, it's going to make it appear. So if you ever lose this or move it around, that's one way to do it. The other way is that, let's say I got rid of my timeline. I'm in Classic, in the Classic workspace. There's an option under here to reset whatever workspace you're in. So I'm going to go ahead and click Reset Classic. Now you can see my timeline's back. So be aware of if you're moving stuff around, you can go under this workspace drop-down menu and click reset, or you can look for whatever you're looking for under the window tab. Going back to the timeline, you see we have layer 1, and Flash can use multiple layers, but I'm not going to get into that. Just be aware that Flash can use multiple layers, and each layer has a set of frames. So right now I only have one frame and it's empty, and I know that because it's filled in and it has this empty circle icon, which this red bar, which is called the playhead. This is in the way, so it's kind of hard to see. But if I were to go ahead and create a new one, don't worry about what I'm doing, just understand that this is here. You can see I have this unfilled circle, and that lets me know, hey, I got a frame here, but there's nothing on it. If I go ahead and draw something, it turns black and it grays out, and that's just to let me know that something is there. And I'm going to go and undo this drawing by pressing Control Z and go back to my selection tool. And the very next part is the toolbox. You've seen me click on some of these tools and use them to draw on the stage or select things. Any kind of tool you're going to be working with for drawing is going to be here on the toolbox. So if you want to draw with a brush, you want to create rectangles, anything, or want to select objects, anything like that, including colors, will be here in your toolbox. The next window I'm going to show you is the Properties Inspector, and this is going to tell us the properties of any object we have selected. And right now there's no property selected, so it's defaulting to showing me the properties of the stage. And it's showing me FPS, which stands for frame per second, but don't worry about that, or frame rate. But like I said, don't worry about that for now, just bear with me. We have the size of our stage, so it's saying it's 550 pixels by 400 pixels. We have our stage color, and I can go ahead and change that. I'll put it back. So for the most part, that's all you need to know about. If your properties window doesn't show up, you can go under Window, Properties, same how we could do with the timeline. So we have our stage, our timeline, our toolbox, and our properties inspector. And let me just show you what I mean by it changes by what we have selected or what we're working with. So I'm going to go into the rectangle tool. And you see now I have a bunch of different options for creating a rectangle. And that sums up pretty much everything about the Flash user interface. There's a couple more things, but we'll get into that later.